Hi everyone, welcome to another top tip video with us at Solution Focused Possibilities. One of the scenarios that can produce a lot of challenge in our work is when we have a client who is convinced that the problems that they're facing, that the issues that they're facing are down to another person in their life rather than anything to do with them themselves. So that might be a young person who is really frustrated and angry and annoyed at their mum or their dad. And if only their mum would stop nagging at them, everything would be better. Or it might be a teacher or a head of year that they're frustrated with. It might be an adult who is frustrated and fed up with their partner or their ex-partner. If only they stopped doing X, Y, or Z, things would be much better. And this presents a challenge to us in solution focused work, particularly around the preferred future section, because one of our intentions is to encourage people to reflect upon their own behaviours and how they would know that they were progressing in a way that was good for them. And as we all know, the only person's behaviour that we can truly control and change is our own. So when someone is fixated on that other person needs to change, it's their fault, it's their issue, they're the one causing all this distress, they're the one that needs to change, that can present a challenge in our work. Okay, so what can we do about this challenge and this dilemma of clients who are really fixated on somebody else in their life needing to change first? Well, as we know in Solution Focused, we lead from one step behind. We let the client direct the conversation, we let the client direct the work. So if they are fixated on somebody else changing in their life, the last thing that we want to do is fight against that. We instead want to allow them to lead, but do so in a productive way, do so in a solution-focused way. So actually my suggestion here is that it doesn't matter so much who changes first in the preferred future, as long as we at some point get to the questions around how the client themselves would start to act differently, how the client themselves would make small changes. So for example, I worked with a teenage boy who was really frustrated and angry with his mum. He was saying, my problem is my mum just doesn't care about me. She never wants to talk to me. And whenever I was asking him questions about, well, what would you notice about yourself that showed that your relationship was improving, he would always go back to, well, my mum would be doing X, Y, and Z. And so actually I just started to follow that, and I said, well, what about on your drive home from school? What would you notice about your mum that showed your relationship had improved? And he said, well, actually she would be talking to me and I would know that she wants to have a conversation with me. Okay, and what would you notice about the way your mum was talking with you that told you she really did want to have that conversation with you? Well, she would be taking longer. She would be giving me a chance to answer. She would be showing genuine interest. These sorts of answers. And then after a while we moved into, and what would your mum notice about your responses that showed your relationship was improving? And he started to say, well, actually, I would ask about her day as well. And I would be calm when I was answering her questions to me. So eventually we did get round to this part of the conversation, part of the preferred future, where you're reflecting on the client's own behaviour. However, we started with changes in his mum's behaviour, changes in the other person's behaviour. So my top tip here really is, it doesn't matter so much who changes first. And actually you can follow that conversation, you can let the client lead in that way, as long as at some point in the conversation you get back round to the client's own responses, to the client's own behaviour. So our invitation to you to try something out this month is, first of all, to be really conscious and deliberate when you're having your preferred future conversations with people about thinking of who's changing first in this scenario. Is it the client themselves, or is it their child, their partner, their teacher, someone else in their life? So be conscious of who's actually changing first in this conversation. And if you do have a client who is really fixated on somebody else in their life needing to make changes for stuff to improve, then don't be resistant to that, but maybe follow it through, let them lead, see where that conversation goes, as long as you are mindful about bringing it back round to the client's own responses, to the client's own behaviour. We've also produced an activity to go along with this top tip video. That's an opportunity for you to do a bit of self-coaching, a bit of reflecting on your own practice. So do go away and have a look at that if you would like to. And as always, we would love to hear your thoughts. We would love to hear your thinking and your ideas on these topics. So once you've completed the activity, if you have got any thoughts, feedback, ideas, do email us at info@sfpossibilities.org. So thanks very much for joining us for another top tip video. I hope you have a great month and we'll see you next time. Take care.